In this brief presentation, I'd like to introduce the VR Comfort Stack, a draft framework for linking predictive fidelity, spatial orientation, and cybersickness. I'm Bernhard Riecke from Simon Fraser University in beautiful Vancouver, Canada, where I lead the iSpace lab. So, who has ever had to stop an XR experience because you or a participant felt sick, dizzy, or disoriented? I certainly had. Now, the more interesting question is, where in the XR system did that problem actually begin? Was the participant problem, the rendering pipeline, framework, the interface? Now, my main claim is really that cybersickness is not one thing. It really happens at the interaction, and especially if you have a mismatch between different layers that I'd like to analyze in a moment. So XR is not a single neutral container. It really affects everything. So XR shapes the set and setting, the technical performance, perceptual world, interaction design, locomotion navigation, and even how users strategize, how they think, behave. So when a participant reports feeling sick or discomfort, it's not just a single, simple participant-level problem, it's really more of a system-level signal. And my hope is that this VR Comfort Stack helps to analyze this, also by asking 5 different diagnostic questions. So at layer 1, we ask, what baseline conditions make the same XR stimulus manageable or provocative? 2, does the system deliver stable, timely, and reliable sensory feedback? 3, does the world behave coherently and provide stable reference structure? 4, does the virtual motion clearly follow the user's intent and support orientation in an easily understandable and intuitive, predictable way? And 5, how does the user actually regulate their exposure, attention, movement, or adaptation? For example, they might be taking a break, change how they look, where they look, how they breathe, their mindset, their posture, all of this, and this can each have ripple effects up and down this stack. Also, there's a whole agency spectrum. So all the different layers point to different loci of agency and responsibility. For example, the users have a lot of agency at the very top of the stack, but also at the very bottom layer, layer 1, whereas the hardware developers have mostly agency and responsibility at the layer 2 and 3. Now, one way to connect these different layers is through the idea of predictive fidelity. So what that really means is, does the XR system generate the sensory cues and input that the brain actually expects? Now, at layer 1, this is really just setting the basic vulnerabilities, so the overall readiness, priors, context, susceptibility, and task demands, even postural affordances. Layer 2 is all about temporal predictive fidelity. So do the signals really arrive when expected? So this is all about frame rate, low latency, flawless tracking, and so on. Layer 3 is all about environmental predictive fidelity. So does the world really behave coherently as you would expect and provide a stable reference structure? Layer 4 is about agential predictive fidelity. Does the motion follow from the user's own actions and intentions in a sensible and predictable way? And layer 5 really regulates the exposure. This is where user strategies, attention, movement, adaptation have an effect. So the VR Comfort Stack is really intended as an organizing lens, not replacing all the wonderful different motion sickness theories, but providing a framework to integrate all of them. Now, when you try and fix one problem about motion sickness, often there's ripple effects across the whole stack. So to give an example, dynamic field of view restriction is nice, you reduce the peripheral field of view, but of course this also reduces the available navigation cues, can affect present attention, strategy, and so on. On the other hand, you can also have ripple down effects. So for example, user strategies, they might slow down, change how they look, how they behave, their habituation, which can affect what they actually experience, the cues available, and even their readiness over time and their susceptibility. Now, my main message is really that cybersickness is not just one adverse, single and simple event. It can really be an interesting, interpretable, structured signal about how the XR system supports or disrupts the things we might care about, how people orient, how they behave, the study interpretation. And my hope is that by making these layers more explicit, we can improve the study design, the reporting, our understanding, the comparison across multiple labs and systems, and also the shared responsibility and avenues for mitigation. So next time somebody says, I feel sick, don't just ask, how sick on the scale? But go deeper. Which mismatch actually occurred? Which layer did it emerge from or move the cost towards to? And who has the agency and responsibility to change it? Thank you.